Hey, it's Tim. For the first time, I'm making pain de mie from the recipe in the book Bread Illustrated by America's Test Kitchen. You'll find the recipe on page 90. Pain de mie means bread of the crumb, and they call it that because it's got a really thin crust and it's square to keep that crust thin. You cook it in a special pan that's got a lid on top. It takes all purpose flour, instant yeast, salt, whole milk, water, melted butter, and honey. And for the equipment, you're going to need a stand mixer with a dough hook, a 4-cup measure, a whisk, a silicone spatula, a silicone bowl scraper, a digital thermometer, a plastic bowl with a lid, some vegetable oil spray, and a little bit of extra flour to spread on your work surface. You also need a Pullman loaf pan, and that's how you bake the bread. So into the mixer go the dry ingredients, and then we'll whisk those together for just about 30 seconds or so in order to combine them. And then we'll whisk together the liquid ingredients in the 4-cup measure. And we want that honey to dissolve, so whisk it long enough for that to happen. And then add all of the liquid to the dry ingredients with the mixer running on low speed. This takes about 2 minutes to get the liquid fully incorporated into the flour. Good idea to scrape the bowl down after about 30 seconds to make sure that there's no flour that sticks to the bottom of the bowl. And after about 2 minutes, it comes together. Because this recipe includes about 55% of the weight of flour as liquid, it makes for a dough that holds together pretty well. We're going to knead it now on the second speed of the mixer for about 8 minutes. And when it's done, in just a little bit, you'll see what a nice dough this makes. So here it is, 8 minutes has passed. And I'm going to turn this dough out onto the work surface and form it into a ball and then set it to rest. So a little bit of flour. And this is a nice, smooth, supple dough. Easy to work with. It's not a wet, sticky dough like some doughs are because the percentage of liquid to flour is fairly low. But because it's got lots of butter and it has the milk, that helps keep the interior nice and soft and fluffy. So my dough is 82 degrees right now, and that tells me that it's probably going to take on the shorter side of the estimate for the rising. It's supposed to double in size, and the recipe says that could take an hour to an hour and a half. I think it's going to be on the lower side of that because the dough is pretty warm. Meanwhile, I put a piece of parchment down on the bottom of my Pullman pan, and this pan's about half the size of the one that the recipe is for, so I just cut the recipe down in order to make enough dough just to fit this smaller pan. So you can see the lid fits on, and that's why it's supposed to turn out a square slice of bread. So after about an hour, I check, and yep, the dough is ready to go. Now, there's not a lot to do as far as getting this ready to bake. We're just going to press it out. Don't need any special equipment. Don't need a ruler because the lid of the pan is the size of the pan. So if we press this out by hand into a rectangle that's the same size as the lid on one side and a little bit longer on the other side, we'll be fine. And what we're going to do is roll this up into a tight cylinder. And that's going to form it into a loaf and also help us keep the interior nice and smooth, according to the recipe. So here we go. Just roll it up. And then pinch the seam and pinch the ends. Yep. And make it fit. It's going to fit. Goes into the pan. Now we'll put the lid on. And the reason to put the lid on is because we want the bread to rise to the top and touch the lid before it goes in the oven. So the lid goes on. Leave it partway open so that the air has a chance to escape while it rises. And we'll come back and check it in an hour. And it's not quite done. It's about 3/4 of an inch below the lip, so I let it sit for just a while longer. And now you can see, I'm going to tilt the pan, you can see that the dough has risen to where it's just at the top, and the lid almost touches it. When it's in the oven, it should rise up and touch the top of that lid, and you can see there that it did. It's flat on the top. It's not flat all over, unfortunately, and I think I should have used a little bit more dough, but that's okay. So after 18 minutes, you take the top off, put it back in the oven for another 18 minutes until it's 206, 207 degrees on the inside, using a 350-degree oven. And now it comes out, and there it is. That's pan to me. And now it has to cool. So it came out of the oven at 206, and now after about 2 hours, it's down to 105, and that's good enough. We can slice this and see how we did. This is a nice loaf of bread. This is the kind of stuff that you think, I'm going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or I'm going to fix some tomato soup and make a nice grilled cheese. So there it is. And you can see the effect of that rolling the dough. It's kind of a spiral on the inside, but not too pronounced. But I was imagining that I could have put cinnamon sugar on this on the inside and made a cinnamon bread out of this. Really nice crumb. Peels apart. It's super soft. It's delicious. The crust is there, but it's not at all thick or chewy. It's really good. So the thing about America's Test Kitchen is they make these recipes. So if you're like me and you've never made this bread and you get this recipe and you do what they say, it'll turn out like this. And that's why I say, if I can do this, then you can do this. So make some bread, buy the book, follow the recipe, and make yourself some pan to me. I would. I did. Thanks for watching.